The air in the courtroom is sterile, thick with the residue of broken promises. It is a place of finality, where hopes are not merely dashed but systematically dismantled, organized into exhibits, and filed under cause numbers. On one side of the mahogany table sits a lawyer, usually impeccably dressed, face betraying nothing but professional calculation. This is the stage for the unmasking of the ultimate human illusion, the ceremonial slaughter of destiny. This lawyer, not the priest who spoke the vows, understands the true nature of marriage. Picture the scene the priest inhabits. Sunlight streams through stained glass, illuminating white lace and idealized faces. The language is aspiration. Forever, soulmates, destiny, the sacred union ordained by heaven. It is the narrative of the beginning, the confident pronouncement of eternal success before the first shot is even fired. The priest deals in the hypothetical potential of two lives merging into one perfect unit. The priest sees the vision of the future. The divorce lawyer, however, deals exclusively in the past, in empirical failure, in the meticulous documentation of decay. They see the betrayal documented in text messages, the financial ruin detailed in spreadsheets, the emotional violence summarized in depositions. The lawyer does not deal in the sacred. They deal in the contract, and specifically, the painful, irreversible consequences of its breach. It is Arthur Schopenhauer, the arch-pessimist, the relentless physician of the human condition, who first articulated this brutal dynamic. He argues that the knowledge held by the person tasked with sweeping up the wreckage is inherently superior to the knowledge held by the person who blessed the construction. The priest is a cartographer of hope, drawing maps of beautiful unvisited lands. The lawyer is the archaeologist of ruin, meticulously uncovering why the structure collapsed, why the inhabitants starved, and why the foundation was poisoned from the start. Schopenhauer's philosophy starts from a position of profound skepticism regarding the nature of human motivation, particularly when it comes to love and marriage. He posits that the vast majority of our actions, especially those related to romantic attachment, are not driven by conscious rational choice or genuine emotional connection. Instead, they are orchestrated by what he calls the will, a blind, relentless, irrational, universal life force that drives all existence toward propagation, survival, and endless striving. This will operates on a scale far beyond the individual's fragile consciousness. It is the hidden master puppeteer, and its primary tool for ensuring the continuation of the species is the grand, intoxicating delusion we call romantic love. The overwhelming feeling of being magnetically drawn to one specific person, the conviction that this person is your unique destiny, the belief that uniting with them will bring everlasting fulfillment. All of this, Schopenhauer insists, is merely the will tricking the individual into performing its biological imperative. The priest standing at the altar is an unwitting servant of this will. They sanction the illusion, they consecrate the delusion. They validate the belief that this temporary, biologically mandated obsession is, in fact, an eternal, spiritually ordained bond. The vows exchanged are spoken under the temporary chemical insanity induced by the will, designed to maximize genetic compatibility and ensure offspring. The priest celebrates the success of the species' deception. But what happens once the will's immediate objective is achieved? What happens once the genetic contract is sealed? Or perhaps merely after the temporary hormones of obsession fade? This is where the illusion disintegrates, and the lawyer steps in. You are watching this revelation unfold right now, where the truth of human relationships is laid bare. Tell us the city where this knowledge is landing, where this philosophical reckoning is taking place. The lawyer witnesses the brutal aftermath when the will withdraws its intoxicating influence. The two individuals, having been tricked into close proximity by a force they did not understand, are suddenly left alone, face to face, with their actual, often incompatible characters. The will cared only about the combination of their genes, not the compatibility of their personalities, their finances, or their daily habits. Schopenhauer argues that marriage, stripped of the will's glamour, is essentially an anticlimax, a prolonged suffering derived from the realization that one was merely a tool for a cosmic, indifferent force. The romantic fever breaks, and the couple is left with the cold reality of shared mortgages, irritating habits, and fundamentally divergent life goals. This is why the lawyer knows better. The lawyer sees the representation, the reality of the relationship after the will has finished its work. The priest focuses on the abstract virtue of commitment, The lawyer focuses on the concrete evidence of abandonment. The priest preaches forgiveness. The lawyer meticulously documents abuse. The priest speaks of unconditional love. The lawyer demands an accounting of assets and the calculation of punitive damages. The knowledge the divorce lawyer possesses is empirical, distilled from thousands of hours spent witnessing the collapse of human idealism. It is knowledge based not on what people ought to do, but on what they actually do when they are wounded, spiteful, terrified, and financially desperate. Consider the data set. A priest sees a sample size of one, the aspiring couple on their wedding day, presenting their best, most hopeful selves. A divorce lawyer, over a 20-year career, sees a sample size of thousands, all couples at their worst, stripped of civility, driven by malice, desperation, and the ruthless pursuit of self-preservation. This lawyer has seen every permutation of human failure, the subtle erosion of respect, the sudden violent rupture of trust, the slow strangulation caused by financial incompatibility, and the chilling realization that the person you chose is fundamentally alien to you. This cumulative empirical knowledge transcends religious doctrine or romantic myth. The lawyer learns through repetition the common pressure points that cause all marriages to fail. They identify the statistically probable path from "until death do us part" to contempt of court. Schopenhauer maintains that the knowledge derived from pain is the only genuine, trustworthy knowledge. Joy, aspiration, and hope are frequently illusions, products of the will designed to keep us striving. Pain, failure, and suffering are real. They are the unavoidable dramatis personae in the tragedy of existence. In the context of marriage, the priest deals in the language of joy and hope, the illusion. The lawyer deals in the language of pain and consequence, the reality. Therefore, the lawyer's understanding of what marriage is, a high-risk contractual partnership between two fundamentally self-interested individuals, often motivated by blind biological necessity, is far more accurate than the priest's idealistic definition of what marriage should be. The lawyer's insight extends beyond mere legal mechanics. It is a profound anthropological and psychological understanding of human nature under duress. They observe the almost universal human tendency to prioritize self-interest the moment the pressure is applied. They see how quickly affection converts to resentment, and how easily financial security trumps emotional fidelity. They know the statistics on cheating, on domestic violence, on asset hiding, and on parental alienation. This is the hard, mathematical truth of human bonding, unsoftened by scripture or ceremonial music. Furthermore, the divorce lawyer understands the concept of the irreversible contract. A priest can advise a couple on how to improve their relationship, guided by abstract moral principles. But the lawyer must advise a client on how to escape a relationship that has become a legal and emotional prison. The lawyer recognizes that marriage is not a conditional commitment that can be easily set aside, but a complex interdependent structure of shared debt, shared property, and shared history. Escaping it requires strategy, not prayer. The priest's solution to marital woes is usually moral reinforcement. Communicate better, forgive, remember your vows, look inward, pray. These remedies assume that the problem is a failure of virtue or effort. The lawyer's solution is practical and protective. Document everything, secure assets, establish boundaries, prepare for conflict. These remedies assume the problem is a fundamental, perhaps irreparable failure of compatibility and character, a collapse of the will's faulty architecture. This perspective is central to Schopenhauer's broader view of life. He sees the world as perpetually governed by striving, a perpetual cycle of desire followed by temporary satisfaction, which rapidly turns into boredom or frustration followed by pain. Marriage in this system is merely another avenue for this cycle. The desire, love, leads to temporary satisfaction, union, children, which quickly devolves into the boredom of cohabitation and the frustrations of incompatibility, leading to the final pain, divorce. The lawyer sits at the endpoint of this cycle, confirming Schopenhauer's bleak prognosis. Every divorce file serves as empirical evidence that the romantic motivation was insufficient to sustain the arrangement once the will stepped back. The profound tragedy the lawyer witnesses and thus understands is the extent to which human beings rationalize their misery. They enter the marriage believing it is unique, eternal, and destined. They leave the marriage believing they were the specific victim of a unique villain. The lawyer sees that neither is true. The failure is not unique. It is statistically predictable. It is the common fate of those who mistake the will's blind impulse for true, rational destiny. The priest offers guidance based on idealized human potential. The lawyer offers protection based on observed human depravity. When the stakes are life, liberty, and financial solvency, the empirical data derived from depravity is the safer guide. It is why we trust the surgeon who specializes in failed operations more than the doctor who specializes in wishful thinking. The priest may see the best in us. The lawyer sees the worst, and it is the worst that ultimately determines the outcome of the contract. The priest sees the person we aspire to be. The lawyer sees the person we become when we feel entitled, betrayed, and cornered. Therefore, the knowledge possessed by the divorce lawyer is essential. It is not romantic knowledge, but realistic knowledge. It is not knowledge designed to build a life, but knowledge necessary to survive its dismantling. It is the hard, cold, unblinking truth that Schopenhauer demanded we face, that our deepest longings are often just biological tricks, and the institutions we build on these longings are destined for collapse. We are committed to facing the most difficult truths. Comment below with the phrase, "The will is blind," to affirm your commitment to reality. You belong here, in this community, dedicated to ruthless clarity. Hit that subscribe button right now, ensuring you never miss a dose of reality, and smash the like button because uncomfortable truths deserve to be illuminated. Next, we move from philosophy to the courtroom evidence. We examine the exact mistakes Schopenhauer predicted, the patterns of failure that divorce lawyers see every single day. Prepare yourself for the brutal details. It is not merely a question of access, the superficiality of who sees the crisis first, but a profound fundamental misalignment of vision. The priest and the divorce lawyer stand at antithetical positions regarding the very nature of human bonding. The priest, regardless of the faith he serves, approaches the matrimonial covenant as a spiritual edifice, a sacred architecture designed by a higher power for the propagation of virtue, mutual support, and ultimately, salvation. His expertise is rooted in the ideal, in the prescribed form of what the union ought to be, measured against millennia of theological dogma and metaphysical aspiration. He operates in the realm of potentiality and obligation. He speaks of forgiveness, duty, and enduring commitment, drawing his knowledge from scrolls that describe perfection. The divorce lawyer, conversely, works entirely in the physical ruins of that spiritual architecture. His knowledge is not prescriptive, it is purely descriptive. He is the forensic pathologist of relationships, studying the precise point of failure, cataloging the cracks, documenting the decay, and assigning the equitable distribution of the debris. He draws his knowledge not from ancient texts describing divine love, but from endless reams of deposition transcripts describing human malice. He is the scholar of the is, the undeniable miserable reality that remains once the anesthetic of the initial romantic illusion, the will's temporary enchantment, has completely worn off. This is the knowledge that Schopenhauer champions, empirical truth derived from the phenomenology of suffering. The colossal intellectual error made by those who claim spiritual superiority in understanding marriage is their necessary disregard for the will's cruel trick. They preach that love is an enduring choice, a deliberate act of the intellect guided by moral principles. Schopenhauer teaches that the initial attraction, the blinding rush that leads two individuals to contract a life together, is nothing more than the will of the species asserting itself. It is a biological mandate wrapped in the most intoxicating, fleeting, and convincing delusion of personal happiness. This delusion serves the will's singular indifferent purpose, the production of the next generation. Once that purpose is achieved, or even just secured through contractual obligation, the will withdraws its emotional subsidy. The music stops, the lights come on, and the two individuals are left staring at each other, often recognizing for the first time that they are essentially strangers bound by a shared mistake. The priest, trapped by his sacred mandate, cannot acknowledge this mechanical, cruel determinism. To admit that the foundation of the sacred bond is merely blind biological urgency is to undermine the entire superstructure of theological meaning he is sworn to uphold. He must insist on the transcendent nature of the bond, even when all observable evidence, the venomous custody battles, the meticulous accounting of betrayals, the documented financial sabotage, points toward the imminent, vulgar reality of self-interest and profound regret. The lawyer, however, sees the aftermath of the will's calculated exit every single day. He doesn't interpret the conflict through the lens of sin or virtue. He interprets it through the lens of psychological necessity and emotional debt. The data collected by the lawyer is the hard, quantitative measure of the will's failure to deliver on its romantic promise. Consider the nature of the lawyer's consultation room. It is a secular confessional, yet it demands a confession far more painful than any sought by a spiritual advisor. The penitent confessing to a priest seeks absolution for a moral failure, often couched in terms of weakness or temptation. The client confessing to a divorce lawyer, however, is seeking institutional warfare against the person they once pledged to love above all others. They reveal not just failings but tactical vulnerabilities. They detail years of calculated coldness, financial manipulation, the slow, agonizing erosion of dignity, and the carefully hidden desire for revenge. This is the raw, unmediated, and unfiltered data set that grants the lawyer superior insight. The priest hears generalized sorrow. The lawyer hears specific, itemized demands for retribution. The lawyer handles the evidence of malice, the archived text messages, the bank statements proving deceit, the surveillance reports confirming infidelity. He deals with the physical manifestation of emotional toxicity. This accumulation of empirical data creates a knowledge base regarding human relational pathology that is unmatched in its detail and undeniable in its authority. It confirms Schopenhauer's darkest suspicions about the fundamentally egoistic nature of human interaction, especially when the veneer of the will's attraction is stripped away. The marital breakdown, viewed through the Schopenhauerian lens facilitated by the lawyer, reveals the marriage contract itself as the ultimate existential trap. It is a contract signed under metaphysical duress, the duress of the will, and yet enforced by state law long after the initial impulse has evaporated. The lawyer's expertise lies in navigating the complexities of disentangling two lives that were interwoven based on a shared illusion. His case files become a devastating index of human inability to find sustained happiness, a practical proof that life oscillates, as Schopenhauer famously claimed, between the agony of desire and the paralyzing boredom of satiety. Once the initial desire, the romantic passion, is satisfied and converted into the long-term dull commitment of cohabitation, the existential boredom sets in, manifesting as mutual irritation, criticism, and the search for external validation. The lawyer watches as clients articulate this boredom as specific complaints. He leaves his socks on the floor. She never listens to me. We have nothing left to talk about. These are not superficial squabbles. They are the surface tremors of a deep existential fault line, the realization that the other person, who was supposed to be the source of ultimate fulfillment, is merely another source of friction and obstruction in the ego's pursuit of peace. Furthermore, the divorce lawyer understands the true cost of moral compromise far better than the priest. The priest preaches the sanctity of the relationship, urging people to endure suffering for the sake of the spiritual ideal. But the lawyer sees the quantifiable damage caused by that endurance, the shattered self-esteem, the lost years, the financial devastation, and the deep, permanent trauma inflicted on children caught in the crossfire. He recognizes that for many, the act of divorce is not a failure of will, but a necessary, desperate act of self-preservation, the rational mind attempting to escape the irrational, self-destructive demands of the biological will. The lawyer is pragmatic. He knows that sometimes the highest virtue is simply cutting one's losses. This pragmatic understanding leads to the lawyer's superior grasp of the motivation for deceit and malice. In the spiritual context, malice is viewed as a character flaw, a departure from goodness. In the lawyer's office, malice is seen as a strategic tool. It is the tactical deployment of spite in pursuit of a financial or custodial advantage. The lawyer understands that when large sums of money, property, or access to children are at stake, the veneer of civilization rapidly dissolves, revealing the primal, competitive ego striving for dominance. He prepares for this malice, anticipates it, and advises his client on how to counter it. He knows that in the face of marital dissolution, few retain their piety. Most become immediate, fierce, and calculating predators. The knowledge of the lawyer is therefore a science of human self-deception and post-delusion behavior. It is the practical study of how people who know each other intimately use that knowledge as a weapon. No sermon, no philosophical treatise on ethics, delves into the specifics of weaponized intimacy like the testimony filed in a high-conflict divorce case. The lawyer observes the transformation from lover to adversary, documenting the meticulous detail of how profound care transforms into equally profound contempt. The priest preaches that marriage is a sanctuary from the world's chaos. The lawyer proves through statistical evidence and sworn testimony that marriage, when failed, becomes its own microcosm of chaos, a vicious civil war fought with intellectual precision and emotional brutality. The superior knowledge of the divorce lawyer is thus the superior knowledge of empirical tragedy. It is the understanding that when the divine or biological illusion fades, the contractual obligations remain, binding two antagonists together until a professional dismantler can surgically sever the connection, counting the financial cost of every broken vow. The priest may understand the theory of the covenant, but the lawyer understands the inexorable reality of its collapse, and in Schopenhauer's worldview, reality is always measured by the intensity of the suffering it generates. The lawyer is submerged daily in that intensity, making him the only true expert on the ultimate outcome of the marital experiment. This is a cold, devastating insight, but one that is absolutely crucial for understanding the true, unvarnished nature of human relational dynamics outside the comforting shadow of spiritual hope. We are left then with the daunting realization that the deepest truths about love and commitment are often found not in the promises spoken on the altar, but in the bitter arguments documented in the courtroom. The lawyer's files are the definitive library of human failure, a testament to the fact that two egos, bound by the fleeting mandate of the will, are structurally incapable of sustaining the perfection demanded by the spiritual ideal. This empirical dark wisdom serves as the foundation for the next critical inquiry. If the priest's idealism is a deception, and the lawyer's pragmatism is merely a cure for the symptom, what then is the Schopenhauerian prescription for actually escaping this cycle of romantic illusion and inevitable disappointment? We must turn to the ultimate philosophical attempt to transcend the will's tyranny, seeking refuge in the final, difficult wisdom that Schopenhauer reserved for the genuine seeker of peace. The ultimate confrontation of human delusion is not found in the temple, but in the sterile, soundproof chambers of dissolution. This is where the final, devastating curtain drops on the grand romantic tragedy, and Arthur Schopenhauer waits, nodding grimly for the inevitable conclusion. We have seen how the priest, steeped in the beautiful, comforting lie of Eros, guided by agape, offers a map to a place that does not exist. We have understood how the lawyer, the cartographer of wreckage, provides the empirical data of human failure, operating on the cold reality of contracts, assets, and liabilities. Now, in the final act, we must observe the shattering consequence of this difference in knowledge and why the lawyer's tragic wisdom is superior to the priest's hopeful doctrine. The priest knows the structure of the ideal marriage, the one that exists in scripture, in cultural memory, and in the aspirational imagination of the individual standing at the altar. It is knowledge built on hope, faith, and the promise of divine intervention. It is a priori knowledge before experience. The lawyer, however, knows the structure of all marriages, the ones fueled by fleeting biological urges, the ones corroded by boredom, the ones destroyed by financial pressure, and the ones that simply collapsed under the weight of two fundamentally incompatible self-interests. This is a posteriori knowledge, knowledge gained after the experiment has failed, compiled from the ashes of shattered homes and the forensic analysis of emotional combat zones. The climax is here. Schopenhauer asserts that knowledge of reality is always more potent than knowledge of illusion, regardless of how comforting the illusion may be. The priest's knowledge provides temporary solace. The lawyer's knowledge provides permanent insight into the human condition. The priest sees the wedding as the glorious starting line of a spiritual ascent. The lawyer sees it as the initial draft of a binding document that, statistically, will require amendment or, more likely, complete severance. Consider the data set. The priest deals with hundreds of couples, often only seeing them during milestones, baptisms, holidays, funerals. He sees the high points, the public performance, the moments when the will is still actively directing the illusion. The lawyer deals with hundreds of couples. At their lowest, most authentic point, they see the unvarnished resentment, the meticulous planning of betrayal, the financial manipulations, the brutal efficiency of mutually assured emotional destruction. The priest observes the surface, the lawyer performs the emotional and financial autopsy. Who then possesses the deeper, more accurate understanding of the institution's true mechanism? The lawyer knows the exact repeatable pressure points that cause dissolution. They see the predictable failure modes: financial dishonesty, fundamental disagreement on child rearing, sexual incompatibility masked by initial infatuation, and perhaps most damningly, the moment the will to life, having fulfilled its biological mandate, withdraws the powerful anesthetic of romantic love and leaves the two individuals stranded with only their raw, miserable selves. This is the Schopenhauerian devastation. Romantic love is merely the cunning of the species, a bait cast by the will to ensure propagation. The priest sanctifies the bait. The lawyer documents the catastrophic realization that the catch was never love, but biological duty now concluded. In the divorce court, we witness the ultimate betrayal of the will. It uses the individual and then abandons them to suffer the consequences of their misguided attachment. The lawyer is the facilitator of the will's final cynical operation, separation, so that the individuals may be free to repeat the cycle, perhaps with new, equally deluded partners. The priest's solutions, forgiveness, patience, spiritual counseling, are often rendered meaningless because the root cause is not spiritual misalignment, but a biological mechanism that has run its course. Trying to fix a relationship based on defunct biological chemistry with theology is, for Schopenhauer, absurd. The lawyer, in contrast, offers practical, immediate solutions to the suffering: division of property, child custody agreements, financial security. The lawyer deals with the material reality of the suffering, which is the only reality Schopenhauer truly acknowledges. This is the difference between offering a prayer for rain and building an ark. This relentless focus on the empirical data of failure makes the lawyer's wisdom inherently tragic, but fundamentally true. The priest operates within the jurisdiction of hope. The lawyer operates within the jurisdiction of fact. And fact, Schopenhauer insists, is always the arbiter of human misery. The divorce lawyer understands marriage better because they understand human nature without the filter of faith. They understand that most humans are fundamentally selfish, driven by ego and material acquisition, and that the moment the romantic illusion fades, these base instincts surge forward to protect assets, reputation, and self-interest. They see the contractual failure not as a moral lapse but as a predictable consequence of two self-interested wills colliding without the lubrication of initial lust. The priest asks, "What went wrong?" The lawyer states, "Here is what went wrong, and here is how we contain the damage." The priest seeks redemption. The lawyer seeks resolution. In Schopenhauer's bleak cosmology, resolution that minimizes further pain is the highest achievable goal, since true redemption or lasting happiness is impossible. We are forced to confront the absolute finality of this observation. The marriage ceremony is a grand public denial of the tragic nature of existence. The divorce proceeding is the public, legally mandated affirmation of it. The priest promises eternity. The lawyer guarantees finality. And in the face of human reality, the guarantee of finality is the only honest assurance. The divorce lawyer is the modern philosopher of tragedy. They are privy to the ultimate secrets of incompatibility, the petty, vicious, and profound reasons why human beings cannot sustain the ideal they publicly promise. They catalog the slow decay of affection into annoyance, of tolerance into contempt. They track the geometric progression of resentment. They watch as two individuals, once bound by an overwhelming temporary delusion, become perfectly calibrated enemies, using every shared intimacy as a weapon. This brutal clinical observation gives them a depth of understanding about marital dynamics that no amount of theological study or hopeful idealization can ever match. The priest offers a beautiful interpretation of human suffering. The lawyer offers an undeniable, detailed account of it, and when the illusion collapses, only the factual account can offer guidance. The lawyer knows that in marriage, the spiritual goal is often subsumed by the material reality. A division of property is a division of life itself, a quantification of every hope and failure, reduced to dollars and cents. The priest tells us that love is priceless. The lawyer assigns a specific market value to its wreckage. And in that quantification, in the cold calculation of who gets the house, who pays the alimony, who claims the retirement fund, lies the final, brutal truth of the entire arrangement. It was, ultimately, a material contract underwritten by temporary emotion. This is the definitive, crushing conclusion Schopenhauer leads us to. Marriage is not a sacrament defined by the spiritual covenant, but a civil, biological, and economic contract designed to stabilize the temporary madness of love. The priest defines the ideal, the lawyer defines the reality. And since reality is composed of inevitable failure, misery, and selfishness, the one who understands failure best is the one who understands the entire structure most profoundly. The knowledge of the divorce lawyer is the knowledge of the human will unmasked, selfish, blind, relentless, and indifferent to the happiness of the individual it has momentarily inhabited. The priest teaches us how to marry well. The lawyer teaches us why we marry disastrously. And that latter knowledge is the only one grounded in empirical truth. The lawyer doesn't just know marriage better than the priest. The lawyer is the ultimate necessary counterpoint to the priest, the essential observer who sees the beautiful promise for the temporary delusion it is, and who holds the blueprint for the inevitable separation. This observation is the bedrock of Schopenhauer's philosophy, a truth that is painful, but ultimately freeing, because it eliminates the delusion of romantic exceptionalism. The lawyer holds the proof that your marriage is not unique in its suffering, only in its details. And this stark realization that the system is rigged for eventual disillusionment is a global phenomenon. It plays out in every culture, every jurisdiction, and every financial bracket. It is the inescapable pattern of the will to life asserting and then retreating. This is a truth so universal, it transcends borders and boundaries. Tell me right now, where in the world are you witnessing this final difficult truth? Which city is hosting your pursuit of brutal philosophical honesty? The lawyer's insight is that suffering is mathematically certain, while happiness is statistically improbable. The priest's role is to deny this math. The lawyer's role is to enforce it. The one who enforces the math knows the formula better than the one who denies it. We conclude with this final, definitive thought. The priest views marriage through the lens of perfection, which is theoretical. The divorce lawyer views marriage through the lens of breakage, which is practical. In a world defined by suffering and the relentless indifference of the will, practical, hard-won knowledge is the only currency of value. The lawyer's knowledge is cold, but it is real. It is painful, but it is functional. It saves people from further idealistic delusion, guiding them back to the necessary cynicism required for survival in Schopenhauer's relentless world. The ultimate lesson of the divorce lawyer is that we must always prepare for the contractual failure of the heart, because the will that binds us is far more ruthless than the God that blesses us. This profound observation is not meant to paralyze you. It is meant to liberate you from sentimental nonsense. This is the truth that requires acknowledgement and demands strategy. This community thrives on intellectual courage and the willingness to face the uncomfortable facts of human existence. We are dedicated to providing the most difficult and necessary insights. I want you to solidify this final, painful realization. We understand the absolute certainty of the lawyer's inventory. Share the word inventory in the comments right now. Your participation validates this essential philosophical reckoning. Do not wait to join the ranks of those who seek genuine insight. Smash the subscribe button immediately. Your support ensures we continue dissecting the uncomfortable realities of life and power. Hit that like button now. You fuel this rigorous examination of philosophy. We are far from finished with the dark corners of human motivation. Next, we turn our attention to the one force Schopenhauer described as even more destructive than the will itself, the crushing, pervasive power of societal expectation. Prepare yourself for the analysis that exposes the ultimate invisible prison. The journey into genuine philosophical understanding continues now.